Hey, Eagles fans. Thank you for checking out another episode of Fourth and Wine, where we talk everything Eagles, drink wine, and most importantly, have a good time. So today we are here with another white wine that we will be tasting, and I'll give my honest review. And we'll talk about the Eagles' debut week 1 in Sao Paulo, Brazil against the Green Bay Packers. We'll give my review, my thoughts on the game, and where I see this team headed. So keep listening. You're now checking out Fourth and Wine. All right. Thank you again for checking out Fourth and Wine. Let's get into the wine. So today we will be testing a wine. It is a white wine. It is called Crème de la Ape. It is a white wine. It is about $12, and you can probably find it in your supermarket or like local bottle shop or something like that. These wines were harvested in 2022. The bottle is very simple. White bottle, white label with a bee on the front. I think that's a bee, not a wasp. Yep. Looks like a bee to me. With a bee on the front. This wine is made in Italy, the northwestern region, the Piedmont region. And it is called a Cortese. Ooh, it is called a Cortese Blanc. That is the grape variety. This variety is said to rival the Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand. So we'll see. I love Sauvignon Blanc, so it's probably my favorite wine, I would say. But this wine pairs very well with seafood, very well with like pastas, white fish, similar to all the other white wines, and salad. So if you don't eat meat or you're a vegetarian, it pairs very well with salads as well. So let's give a quick review. So this wine is acidic, like many white wines are. I wouldn't say it's dry. It's not dry. It's a little drier, obviously, than some like sweeter white wines like Moscato, but I wouldn't say it's dry. It doesn't leave an aftertaste. I like that it doesn't leave this weird aftertaste, which usually means it doesn't have a lot of tannins in it. It's not bitter. It's very smooth. It almost tastes like a fruit of some sort. Has a very crisp taste. It is said that these wines have notes of lime and almond, which I can see because it is crisp, so it has like a citrus taste to it. But something about this wine just doesn't linger long for me. And I'm not sure why I'm expecting it to, but the taste doesn't last. I feel like once you drink it, the taste disappears. So if I have to rate this wine, I'd give this wine a 2.9 out of 5. And it's not bad. So I definitely think you should go out, try it. It's called Crème de l'Ape. It's from 2022. It is a Cortese Blanc. I just think the wine is forgettable a little bit. I feel like I will not remember how this tastes later on. But try it. You might like it. So, anyway, let's get into week 1 in Brazil. Let's do it. So, let's run through the game really quick. Week 1 in Brazil, the Eagles played the Green Bay Packers, and we brought home the victory from Sao Paulo, Brazil. It is the first NFL game in Brazil, so there was a lot of chatter around travel time to this game. Would the team be able to handle the pressures of being in Brazil? And I guess they did, because we brought home a victory. The score was 34-29 Eagles, and the Eagles scored 4 touchdowns, 2 field goals, 7 penalties, which cost us 57 yards. Jalen Hurts threw 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles, totaling 3 total turnovers. Wow, that is a tongue twister. 3 total turnovers, and Jalen Hurts was sacked twice in Friday night's game. But there were some really good highlights of the game. I'd say it was a really good game to watch. We came out swinging. AJ Brown with a big touchdown for 68 yards on the 2nd and 7 in the 3rd quarter, which was a big needed play at a much needed time where our team needed to pick up some pace and some momentum. Saquon with 3 huge touchdowns, which gave the team the much needed momentum. He looked good all night long. Saquon, welcome to Philadelphia. And then on defense, Reed Blankenship with an interception. And his celebration dance was an homage to RHQ, Rich Homie Quan, by hitting the Quan dance in the end zone. I've seen Reed Blankenship do that dance before. I think it's one of his favorites, his notable touchdown dances, or not touchdown dances, interception dances. But I think it was more noticeable because Rich Homie Quan recently passed away this week. Rest in peace to Rich Homie Quan. He was the soundtrack to a lot of our college days. Shout out to Morgan at HBCU. Shout out to Temple. A lot of good moments. But those were some of the biggest highlights from the game. But let's get into a segment and a review period. I'm going to call this the good, bad, and the ugly. Okay? So overall, it was an entertaining game, but as a fan, you're always wishing for a blowout game. You want your team to go out there. You want them to be perfect all the time. But that usually doesn't happen for most teams in week 1. And it is hard to win games in the NFL. I've never played football, but in the NFL, everybody's good. Everybody's good. Even if we think they suck, they're better than you. Okay? So that's just not how football goes. But overall, I'd say it was a very good game. So let's get into all of the good points. Saquon Barkley, the highlight of the game, 2 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown, and he made some big plays on first down in the 2nd and 3rd quarters. He looked amazing out there. And I will say, when the Eagles signed Saquon, I wasn't 100% sold. Not that Saquon isn't a great player, but he wanted some money. Big name, and I didn't feel like signing a running back was a top priority for the Eagles because I felt like DeAndre Swift and Kenny Gainwell were serviceable quarterbacks and they could get the job done. However, Howie saw otherwise, so he signed Saquon and he showed out in his debut. So I will say, if Saquon's performance in week 1 is any testament to Howie bringing him onto the Eagles offense, I was wrong. And this is amazing. I'm glad I was wrong. Saquon was the perfect sign. I just had doubts about injuries and things like this. But if week 1 is any tell to the future of Saquon here as a Philadelphia Eagle, I'm excited to see it. And I think it's amazing. I'm glad he's here. Let's get into some more good things. There were a lot of good things about Friday. Defense. Defense came out strong, setting a high tempo and saving the offense on many occasions by getting stops. Quinyon Mitchell was impressive with his stops and coverage. I loved seeing him out there, especially on a crucial 3rd down play, which was key in preventing a Green Bay touchdown. I thought he looked great. Zach Bond. Now, we saw glimpses of Zach Bond in preseason, but number 53 was everywhere on that field, okay? He was flying around, making plays, making stops. Zach Bond racked up 2 sacks and 15 total tackles, and he really stood out. Shout out to number 53. The linebackers and the DBs, if we had any doubts about them from last season and what this team could be this season, I feel like week 1 should have simmered some of those doubts. They looked good. The framework is there. The execution was there. We need to continue to execute throughout the rest of the season and continue to build. Maintaining that momentum, maintaining that standard, I thought the secondary looked good. And then last, I will give a shout out to the coaches. The coaching staff made adjustments. And I said in my Quick Slants video, if you didn't watch it, go watch it. It's on @ForTheBirds Instagram page. But I said that coaching staff would need to make adjustments. If they notice certain play styles, certain play calls, schemes were not working, they would have to adjust. And they did. When they noticed that passing the ball and Jalen throwing it down the field wasn't always working, they made adjustments, got Kenny Gainwell involved, got Saquon more involved, and handed the ball off to the running backs. So I thought that those were a lot of good moments that we had on Friday. But I told y'all this is called good, bad, and ugly. So let's get into the bad. So let's talk a little bit about the bad. I said it's the good, bad, and ugly. Let's get into the bad. The impact of missing Jason Kelce. It was clear that Jason Kelce's absence was felt. You could see the difference in relationship between Cam Jurgens and Jalen Hurts. You noticed it through the snaps and the fumbles of Jalen Hurts. He fumbled the ball a few times, a few snaps from Cam Jurgens. And Cam Jurgens, by no means am I putting the expectation on him to be Jason Kelce. And that's okay. That is A-okay. But the change does come with its own new set of challenges. How will Jalen Hurts adjust? How will Cam Jurgens adjust? This is the first time, week 1, that they've gotten to play one another or play together. So it is an adjustment. It is something that they will have to work on together. I recall watching an interview last season or maybe a few seasons ago, an interview I believe Jalen Hurts was on the New Heights podcast, and he mentioned that adapting to Jason Kelce's quick snaps took some time, but eventually he got comfortable. So now we are in a similar adjustment period where Cam Jurgens, Jalen Hurts will need to make adjustments. They will need to work together and improve. Another bad from the game, which was for both sides, the Green Bay Packers and the Eagles, would be the field. The field was different. Let's say it was different. There were a lot of issues with slipping. On the first drive, Saquon Barkley slipped. Defensive players were missing tackles due to slipping. But I mean, we saw a similar situation in a Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs back in the 2022 season. The field is always the talk in the NFL when it comes to players, their safety, what type of field they should be playing on, etc. The field is always a thing, and the field was a thing on Friday night. Now, another bad, I would say, is special teams. The performance of special teams over the last few years has always been a little mediocre to me. The best thing they've got going for them is Britton Covey, the punt returner. But that's all I really got to say about special teams. Like, my gripe with special teams is that the first play, the kickoff to start the game, there was a penalty. We should have honed in, studied the new kickoff rules, studied where everyone was going to be. That should have come out perfectly because you knew it was coming. It should have been studied. So we got a penalty for that. And speaking of penalties were also very bad of Friday night's game. Eagles drew 7 penalties, 7, which cost us 57 yards. And in many of those cases, we shot ourselves in the foot. False starts, pass interferences. We put Green Bay in positions to score. They moved down the field, not only because of Jordan Love, shout out to Green Bay. They played a great game, but because of our own penalties. And last but not least, now while I had the DBs on the good side, I will also put them on the bad. They had a few moments and a few opportunities where they missed plays, gave up some touchdowns, like big situations where they gave up some touchdowns and they should have been making tackles. But when you're on the field, you have to keep getting on the field because offense isn't doing anything in the first half. It tends to happen. You're going to give some up. It can't be perfect all the time. Now, Eagles fans, let's get into the ugly. I'm going to always say it like that. Ugly. Let's get into the ugly. Now, these are things that can become glaring issues as the season progresses and be key factors in why we might not get back to a Super Bowl. But they can be cleaned up. Or it could have just been week 1 jitters. But if I see some of these things when we enter into week 4, I might start getting nervous and press the panic button. But I'm not pressing the panic button yet. I'm not pressing it yet. Jalen Hurts' performance, that was ugly. It was ugly. And he knows it was ugly. I watched the press conference after the game. He talked about a lot of things that he needed to do better, and he took accountability for the things that he did not do well, which I can appreciate. But his performance was stand out for all the wrong reasons. The RPOs, the run pass options, they didn't seem to be working well for Jalen Hurts. And I felt like this was something similar that we saw him struggling with in the past. Being able to read and make decisions quickly enough to get the ball out, to get it to whoever it needs to go to, whether it's Devontae, AJ, Goddard, Saquon. The RPOs seem to trip him up a little bit, which in turn caused some interceptions. Jalen Hurts had 2 interceptions, but it could have been much more. It could have been more. The interceptions were frustrating and very reminiscent of last season. He seemed to have struggles with decision-making, moving through his progressions, and just flat out, he was not throwing accurately. Then I would say the run plays by Jalen Hurts. Typically, we see Jalen make an explosive run to gain a few yards, to gain the first down, to gain the touchdown. And I didn't see as much of that this season as I have in the past. Now, another ugly would be those ends, those D ends, those guys on defense, Josh Sweat, Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith. The performance overall was lackluster. I really expected these guys to get to the QB and not one of the guys I just named it. And just to break it down for you, Bryce Huff had 1 tackle, one total tackle, and he played 45% of the total snaps. Josh Sweat had 1 tackle, and he played 61% of the total snaps. Nolan Smith had 2 tackles, and he played 46% of the total snaps. We paid Bryce Huff to come in here and be the replacement of Hassan Reddick, and I just didn't see it. Not in week 1. Maybe we'll get something in week 2. I just didn't see these guys get into the QB. There's tons of pass rush issues. And it's something that will need to be addressed moving forward. You can't pay these guys. You can't pay Josh Sweat. You can't pay Bryce Huff and they not deliver for you. And it makes me concerned at the depth in this area because if you got 3 who didn't give you anything in week 1, it can be nerve-wracking because you need at least one of these guys to step up and make a play. And none of them got to Jordan Love this past Friday. None of them. Those are my ugly concerns. Jalen Hurts, interceptions, the defensive ends. These are my concerns with how the season is going to go. Because if Jalen can't clean up the interceptions, we're going to lose the turnover battle. And we're going to lose games because of it. If we can't create a good pass rush and get to the quarterback, be quick, if we can't stop the run, because Josh Jacobs ran all over us on Friday. That's another one. If we can't make stops and have the top rushing defense, have one of the top pass rushes, like we could set ourselves up for failure. But I'm not pressing the panic button yet. It's week 1. These guys are knocking off rust. This is a real game. They're playing the first string. Like, it's all in. It's all in. And guys are giving their full effort. So, I'll give it some time. But when it comes to week 4, week 5, if I'm still feeling this way, I'm definitely hitting the panic button. And I'm going to let y'all know. But to wrap it up, our player of the week, as you already know if you follow the For the Birds Sports Instagram page, is Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley made his Eagles debut in Brazil and absolutely crushed it. As I stated before, 3 touchdowns, over 100 yards rushing, 23 receiving yards. The Eagles found a gem, and the Giants were crazy to give this guy up. Crazy to give this guy up. So welcome to Philadelphia, Saquon. Have a day, my friend. Enjoy it, revel in it, watch the tape, and I can't wait to see you back out there in week 2. And God willing, I pray for a healthy and safe season for Saquon Barkley and the rest of the Eagles team. But overall, I think the momentum is there. I think the team chemistry is there. Hopefully, we learn to continue to face adversity, being down, being behind, and we adjust. And each week, I need to see this team build a little bit more. Last season, I didn't see any build. Every week was the same struggle, the same problems, the same issues. And piece by piece by piece, as the weeks went on, teams started to pick those things apart. But I'm feeling very confident about this season. There aren't any super glaring concerns for me yet. It's just week 1, guys. So thanks again for tuning in to Fourth and Wine. Don't forget to try out this nice wine, the Crème de la Ape Cortese Blanc wine. Try it out for yourself. And don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram. Like, share this video at For the Bird Sports, at Fourth and Wine on Instagram. And also follow me on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. Do it all. Do it all. Just share, send this out. This podcast means a lot to me. And I really appreciate everyone tuning in each week because I love the Eagles, and I love the fact that you can get a perspective from a real fan, a woman, and just get the real, because sometimes Philadelphia media can be overload, but I think that this is pure. We're giving you just me. It's me. So I hope you enjoy everything I'm sending out here. Thank you again for listening, and until next time, I'll see y'all in week 2. Cheers.